Let's go ahead and get started. So good evening to all of you who are joining us this evening via Zoom. On behalf of Deborah Travis, President of the Montgomery County, Radford City-Floyd County branch of the NAACP, and Elizabeth Obenchain, President of the League of Women Voters, Montgomery County, I welcome you to the Radford School Board Candidate Forum. My name is Karen Jones, and I serve our branch as Political Action Chair, and together with Peggy Lane, Chair of Voter Services Committee for the Montgomery chapter of the League of Women Voters, and Janet Hahn, who is also a member of the local league, we organized and planned tonight's forum. And tonight, I will also serve as the moderator for the forum. We also have three people who will serve as the Q&A sorters: Peggy Lane, Carolyn Rude, and Allison Wilson. Janet Hahn will also serve as our timekeeper, and I'll share more about their roles in just a few moments. Before we get started, I want to acknowledge Governor Northam's recommendation that the May 5th election be moved to November. This is a recommendation that must be voted on by the General Assembly on April 22nd when it reconvenes. Until this decision is made, we are proceeding, and the information we share is relevant to the May 5th election. But what I'm excited about is that each of your school board members or school board candidates wanted this opportunity to talk with you. So whether you all get to vote in May, June, or November, they still wanted this opportunity to connect, and that's really important. We learned a lot of lessons from Tuesday's forum in terms of everyone being able to access the forum. I hope tonight that if you experienced difficulties on Tuesday, you had an easier time this evening getting in. This virtual candidate forum is new to us, and as we get started, I will just ask for your grace and patience if we meet any hiccups along the way. So what I want to do now is just explain to you what the guidelines of the forum will be. It is our goal that we create an experience that is as similar as it would be if we were together in Radford High's auditorium. And so here's how tonight's forum will work. Each candidate will begin and will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and tell us why they are running for office. Questions for tonight's forum have all come from you. Questions were sent in advance via email or by completing a form we shared via Facebook and email. During the forum, you may also submit questions using the Q&A box you should see at the bottom of your screen. If you use the Q&A box, please submit your questions anonymously by checking the box that's labeled Submit Anonymously. The Q&A sorters have pre-screened questions for duplication and variety. They will do the same for the questions submitted in the Q&A box this evening. This year, following the forum, we will provide the candidates with a list of all the questions submitted. But again, the questions that you will hear tonight all come from you and have been pre-screened for duplication and variety only. As the moderator, I will address those questions to all the candidates and I will rotate in the order in which questions are asked between the candidates. Questions will be addressed to each candidate. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer each question. A rebuttal will be allowed for up to 1 minute per question. Candidates will only be able to offer 1 rebuttal per question. The timekeeper will hold up a sign indicating when you have 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and when time is up. Each candidate then, at the end of the forum, will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And during that closing statement, you may address any of the questions previously asked. We also just wanted to provide you, the audience, with just a few tips in watching tonight's forum. For screen visibility, we have set the screen so that the candidate or person speaking will be the most prominent view. You can also control this view by choosing speaker gallery in the top right of your screen. Also, using the Q&A box, which you should find at the bottom of your screen, enter questions in the Q&A box. You may enter questions anonymously by checking Send anonymously, sorry, before clicking send. You will not be able to see the questions that are being asked. And if you are joining us tonight by phone audio only, you won't have the same functionality, but you'll still hear a really great forum. And then just a few voter resources that you all can access. The voter guide is available at vote411.org, or you may download it at either one of our websites. For up-to-date information about the elections or any questions that you may have, such as requesting an absentee ballot, you can visit elections.virginia.gov, or you can also talk with your Radford Director of Elections, and his information is also available. Just some important dates for you all to remember, and just remember that this is in reference to the May 5th election. Mail-in absentee ballots, April 28th is the last day to request. The last day for in-person absentee voting will be May the 2nd, and then Election Day will be May 5th with polls open until 7 p.m. And so now we're going to get started with our candidates. We do have all of their information here for you all to access, to be able to communicate with them. And we are looking forward and glad that they are all here with us this evening. And then just last but certainly not least, and we would love to hear from you, the contact information for both the League of Women Voters and the NAACP is listed here with our website, social media, and email address. And so without further ado, we are going to get started with our forum. The first thing that we're going to do is allow for candidate introductions, and we will start that with Mr. Chris Calfee.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. It's actually an honor and privilege to be here with everyone tonight. Look forward to the forum. The reason that I'm running for candidacy, frankly, is because I have two children in Radford City School. My wife and I both are former Bobcats as well. So we've been in the school system. We understand how things are. We're very active in the community. And we just want to make sure that there is a continued balance with a drive towards helping our young people, our faculty, staff, and administration to have the absolute best tools and opportunity they can to not only succeed, but to excel. Radford has always been an excellent source of education in Virginia and throughout the country. And we want to make sure that continues that way. So that really is my drive, my passion, is making sure that all of those individuals, the young people, the faculty, staff, and administration, have everything they need. And I do my part as I have time. At this point with my job, I have some flexibility, so I want to help out and give back to the community that's given so much to me and my family.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Justin Mosby.
Hello. Thank you all for coming this evening. This is actually a really neat opportunity for me. And my wife and I live here in Radford. She grew up in Northern Virginia. I grew up in Reiner, actually, and attended Auburn schools. I actually graduated from Christiansburg, ran and participated in sports, understand the value of sports can play in a young person's life. A lot of what we do, our two daughters, we have two daughters in school. One is in high school and the other is in elementary school. We also are active in the community with volunteer programs. We go to church here in Radford. And for me, the biggest reason I wanted to run for school board was just to be a positive, active participant in seeing a system grow and develop into what I kind of look at as kind of being what I kind of look at as everything is school, a perspective of everything is school. And so developing and supporting our teachers, our administrators, the janitor, the folks that cut the lawn, the cafeteria workers, everybody impacts how a young person interacts during the day at a school. So I just want to be a positive impact on the school board for someone that can represent all of those folks when they have concerns, when they have needs, and when they want to make an impact in their own right. I want to be there to kind of help support them in any way I can.
Thank you. Jody Ray is our next candidate.
Hello. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day Just a brief introduction of myself. I currently work at Volvo Group Trucks in Dublin. I'm IT manager there. My team sits in Greensboro at the corporate office and in Dublin as well. Prior to that, I have 13 years of experience in education as both a middle school and high school teacher and coach, and a middle school and high school principal. So my experiences, I've been a teacher, coach, athletic director, assistant principal, and a principal in public education. I think what I could bring to the board is my experience at the high school. We currently have 2 teachers, or previous teachers, who sit on the board, but there's no one to my knowledge in central office or on the board who has high school experience. So I think I can bring that. The main reason I'm running, I do have 2 children in the school division as well. We've been here for roughly 5 years, a little less than 5 years. And I've seen a lot of good things happen in a lot of other divisions as well as Radford, and I think I can bring those experiences to the community here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next candidate that we will hear from is Miss Jenny Wright.
Hi there. So I am a 10-year resident of Radford City, and I love our little city. I've gotten involved in so many ways as a parent. I have 2 children who attend Radford City schools, and I got involved with the PSA when I first came to Radford and became the PSA president, and really enjoyed donating my time to volunteering for our schools. And in doing that, I got more and more involved with the community and finding out that there were more needs than what our students' families could meet, and started the Bobcat Backpack Program, or our weekend food program here in Radford. And we've been doing that for quite a few years now. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and so I have spent time working in the schools with students and with teachers and with staff to make sure that their needs are being met in the mental health realm, and that's really important to me. I feel that our schools are amazing, and what we're doing with the budget, the very limited budget that we've got, is phenomenal. Our teachers are helping our students score off the charts. Where our Region 7 students have the highest scores in the state. And so I want to continue to help bring fair and equitable policies to our school board so that our schools are serving every student to the best of their abilities. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you so much. And our next candidate is Miss Mary Nar, did I say that right? Nar Smith.
Hi, it's actually Kanar, which is fine. Yeah, well, you pronounce the K, so it's Kanar. I had wanted to run for school board just because, you know, we've lived in this area for a long time. I graduated from Pulaski County High School. My husband and I both graduated together, and both of us kind of said we're never coming back to this area. And lo and behold, we've been here for 17 years and chose Radford specifically for the school system and for the small community and sort of neighborhood-minded atmosphere of really the entire city. That was a place that we wanted to raise our kids, and that we wanted to be a part of the community. And so I just am interested in trying to help Radford move forward and be competitive in not just the state, but in the nation. And yeah, just looking forward to trying to help Radford do some great things.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for those introductions. And we're just going to jump right in and get started with our first question. And Justin, you will be able to answer this question first, and then we'll just go around that way. So to let you all know, as I read the questions, when it comes back to your turn, if you need me to repeat the question, I am more than happy to do that. Just let me know. So our first question reads, assuming there is enough money to give the teachers a 2% raise or address a much needed school building problem at the high school, how would you determine who gets the funding? And let me repeat that because I think I read it kind of broken up. Assuming there is enough money to give the teachers a 2% raise or to address a much needed school building problem at the high school, how would you determine who gets the funding? Justin?
Okay. Well, as I learn more about where the funding resources come from, if that was the tax dollars or the dollars that the city actually had the ability to use, I think we'd have to look at where we lie competitively within the region, where our salaries currently lie competitively, and then how past needed have those facility needs been, how long have they been on the list to be used. And I would just sit and try and weigh those as to whether the state was offering us resources to perhaps provide a pay raise, or are we looking at bonding out funding for the building. And I think we've tried to look at it currently where the state of Virginia is offering a 2% raise. Our city has offered a 2% raise. We've tried to come somewhere in the middle of that. And then also we're doing a building project. So it can get complicated as to where those funding resources come from. But I think if we had only the ability to do one of two of those things, and we think we'd have to look at when was the last time we had a raise and how long has a building project like that been in the queue and been needed. And that's really a safety issue. It could be a safety issue, or it could just be something that we want it to look nicer and new. I know some gyms have come under the speculation of needing refurbishing because of issues around safety. So I'd have to look at all of that and would consider all of that and trying to come to a conclusion.
Thank you. Jody?
Yes, so I think there are a couple things that need to be looked at as far as funding. We are competitive in our area with teacher salaries. We are not competitive in the state. So if you look at that, our teachers need raises. However, if you look at our buildings, they need repair and upgrading as well. So if this is one-time money, it's a no-brainer for me. It goes to schools. That has a direct impact on kids. We're in an area where it's hard to find housing, and people who move in look at our schools, and they often go to Blacksburg or Christiansburg because of the way the schools look. They're older. So I do think if it's one-time money, that's a no-brainer. If it's recurring funding, then we need to make sure our teachers have competitive salaries across the state. Currently, we are competitive locally, though. So I think if it's narrowed down, the money that can be spent on either, I do think I would spend on the schools immediately. But I would also, if it's recurring next year, I would make sure that the teacher raises were the first thing on the docket to spend that money on.
Thank you. Jenny?
Yes, thank you. So when it comes to making choices between teachers and buildings, that's difficult, because if we don't have the teachers who are getting paid a reasonable salary, then we don't have schools to come to. So obviously our buildings need to be kept in good repair. We have this huge McCarg project that is happening now, and we know that money from the city is not really going to be available for the next 4 to 5 years. So making choices with upcoming projects is huge. That being said, we know that with our teachers getting some raises in their salaries recently, the insurance costs are going up. So when you're increasing your insurance costs, that increase in teacher salary really doesn't increase at all. It's really more of a deficit to them. So we need to stay competitive. We need to keep our teachers here. Our teachers are paid about third highest in our area, in our local area, which is great, but we need to do better. We need to reach out to our legislators. We need to reach out to every folk that we can to figure out how to increase their salary so that we can keep our excellent teachers here. They've done a phenomenal job getting our students state testing scores just through the roof. And if we don't keep them here with adequate salaries, then the building repairs are not as necessary when we don't have students coming to our schools when they're not as outstanding. So obviously our schools need to be upkept, and as soon as the next project can get started for building and facilities, I hope that we can do that.
Thank you so much. Mary?
Yes, so I think it's a little bit of which comes first, the chicken or the egg. It's a really difficult situation. Obviously, you want our buildings to look great, to be in good shape so that we attract more families, so we have a higher tax base, so we have more money, so that we can do things like build more schools, update the schools, and provide for the teachers as far as a raise. But it is kind of tough. What also attracts good families and new people is awesome schools, as far as like the teachers and what kind of school grades they get and how our SOLs go and what people say about the teachers. I think you kind of have to look at that and say, is it a safety issue with the building? Or is it just something that we want to fix, or that we could kind of postpone and maybe do some small repairs to make it last, so that we could help out our teachers by giving them a raise.
Thank you. Any other comments or rebuttals from the other candidates?
Chris still needs to respond.
Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry.
Don't mind.
Yes, I would love to hear your answer.
I certainly appreciate the opportunity. I think, again, it's one of those situations that we have to be cognizant, as other candidates had mentioned. Is this a one-time funding in excess that we've identified, or is this something that we're going to see recurring? Also, as a personnel manager of over 23 years experience, frankly, what I have to look at is where in this payroll curve would that potentially put our educators at that point. So if we allocate 2% to them this year because of this excess we found, are we precluding potential raises for them in the future, or pushing those out further because of that? And again, that's something I would have to look at and consider and work with as well as the rest of the board and the superintendent. We don't want to harm anyone because we found an excess, we want to utilize it. But at the same time, again, if we can get that to the teachers, I'd love to do so. But additionally, I know at this point there are projects that are being put off. We have a 50-year-old gym at the high school. The East Wing needs repairs. And as has been mentioned, because of the project that we're going through right now, the large dollar amounts have been allocated, we're being told we may have to put those projects off for another 4 to 5 years. So an excess would have to be looked at carefully. Frankly, I would want to see the income curve for the existing teachers, and would that preclude them from additional income raises in the near future before allocating that, and simply then reconsidering would those be funds better spent on infrastructure to improve and make our schools safer and more attractive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So now I'll ask, are there any additional comments, or y'all just have to let me know when I mess up? It's okay. All right, so our next question for this evening, and we're going to start, Jody, you'll be able to answer this question first. And the question reads, what are your thoughts on current school board goals? Should they be retained, or should new ones be created?
Yeah, so the current school board goals, if you look at those, they're a couple are probably outdated that I've looked at. McCarg was on there, obviously, and there are others. I do think your goals need to be revisited every year without going into detail of the school board goals. I think situations change, and we're in an obvious, we're going to have some obvious aftermath of this situation we're in right now. So when the goals were written and agreed to between the school board and the schools, the goals were obviously, they were already outdated a year later. So I think they need to be looked at, and I do think they need to be reassessed on a yearly basis, and especially this year. without going again into specific goals, I think right now the goals will change. I think McHarg's there and will remain high on the list because of the investment and obviously the decisions that were made. However, there are goals right now when you look at the school board goals that I think could be put secondary now and focus on our kids and getting our kids and staff and teachers reacclimated to school as quickly as possible.
Thank you. Next is Jenny.
Yes, thank you. I mean, it's an important question, and clearly we do need to look at those goals regularly. COVID has changed everything, and so what were our regular plans are going to need to be reassessed. Do we need to open schools earlier than we normally do in mid-August to be able to provide some more educational, in the classroom time for those students, to bring them back up to be ready for the upcoming school year? Do we need to have SOL testing in a different form? Obviously we had to skip that at the end of this school year, but we're going to need to have SOLs because it's state mandated, as much as we all hate them, at the end of the 2021 school year. So do we need to have, SOLs, some sort of a baseline testing to be able to get a handle on where our students are when they're coming back after this extended time away from the classrooms? Obviously McHarg has moved forward, so that would be on a different part of our goals. I think that vocational technology and expanding that program is always going to be something we need to work on in the upcoming years, including working with NRCC, community college, and also with Radford University. We have an outstanding nursing program there, and I would love to reach out to them and create a nursing, sort of an entering nursing program for our high school students that are interested in that. Radford University has so much to offer, and I feel like we really could partner with them more. So there are, number of goals that we need to continue to work on, but we need to be mindful that this pandemic has changed everything. So how we approach teaching our students, how we approach supporting our teachers, trying to get those students back to where they need to be so that they're ready to learn for this year. I think all the goals are going to shift.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Our next is Mary.
Yes, thanks. So looking at the school board goals that are current right now, there are absolutely things that we still need to work on: the achievement gaps, the poverty impact that it has on the students here. But there are some things that we've ticked off, and I feel like every time you tick something off your list, you look at your list and you say, oh, are these still our same priorities? Do we need to reevaluate? Do we need to reprioritize? So I think even more often than a year, if you manage to tick something off your list, you go ahead and you look at it and you decide if you need to reprioritize or change things around. But absolutely, the COVID is going to change things. We have to look at the goals and base a lot of stuff now off of that. I think it's really going to change not only the next school year, but the next several school years, and just the way that we do a lot of different things in life.
Thank you. Chris?
Thank you so much. As I'm looking at the information right now, even as late back as February 3rd, whenever I looked over the board site specifically for this area, our goals are stated for 2018-2019 as we post to the public right now. Frankly, again, as a business manager, as a business person, that's unacceptable. We should be reevaluating our goals on a semi-annual and annual basis because things do change. I agree with everyone, the candidates, as they said, that yes, COVID-19 has changed things, but frankly, the world itself that we live in even now is different than it was in 2018 whenever these goals were initiated, because that's why we state 2018-19 goals. There are many items that have been ticked off. There are many that need to be updated and frankly reevaluated the order of which they're presented. I do certainly agree that school safety should always and needs to stay number one, but the other items that follow through for the remaining 6 and the additional 6 sub-items there need to be updated at least on a semi-annual basis and reevaluated at every opportunity to reflect things like our current restricting budget that's coming out. As we heard in the last school board meeting, we know there's some changes coming. We have to be proactive with that. If we're not, frankly, everyone suffers, and it's across the board. We just need to stay ahead of that, and it's our responsibility, if we're elected to school board, to make sure that we're doing just that.
Thank you. Justin.
So I think a lot of us in the group here, can come to a consensus that yes, those type of goals need to be evaluated. In the organizations I've worked in, whether it was Virginia Tech or the organization I'm working in with now, we always evaluated goals, and we looked at them on a 3-year cycle, a 5-year cycle, and certainly real time when we were trying to meet benchmarks and look at growing an organization. You had to look at things without catastrophic events like this or big events like COVID happening. You do want to look at things on a real-time basis and kind of update things on at least have them congruent with the academic year or the calendar year that you're working in. Some of those areas, whether it's developing partnerships with corporations that are in the area, supporting individuals with disabilities in the program, closing that poverty gap. I've been on the Beans and Rice board. I've been a board member of Beans and Rice, and we've certainly seen a change in the poverty levels here in the city of Radford. So certainly addressing that and how the educational programs are advocating for those individuals and developing opportunities for them to succeed in school, but also out of school. So I think there's certainly ways that you've got to look at those goals on a continuous basis, and especially if there are new board members coming on, their view of how things can be looked at within the school system, and partnerships that can be developed with teachers and administrators certainly would affect some of those goals. So I kind of a consensus, I think, about all of us that, yeah, those goals are going to need to be looked at pretty handily.
Thank you. Any other comments or rebuttals from the candidates? Okay. So our next question for this evening, and Jenny, you will be able to answer this question first. So the question reads, are you satisfied with what the schools are doing to prepare a workforce for tech-oriented industries? How might you enhance that curriculum?
Well, I think I touched on it in my last response. I feel like we have amazing opportunities with New River Community College and Radford University in our backyards. The more we can connect with them and the programs they offer, I think our students will benefit. If there's more ways that we can encourage our students to pursue degree programs, mentoring programs, certificate programs that are available to them in high school, I think the more we can expand on the offerings we already have. It's expensive, so to be able to have at our Radford High School facility, at our school building, the needs to be able to have those programs, it's very expensive. We can't always move our students to the New River site to be able to participate in what they offer. So we have to figure out the funding for that. And I don't know where that comes from. But the more opportunity there is for our students who are interested in technology, interested in other opportunities than going to a 4-year college, I think we need to absolutely support that. And I think the ACE program is a wonderful opportunity for our students to be able, I don't know why we're seeing Chris and not me. It's very confusing. Do you all see Chris and not me?
No, I see you.
Oh, okay. It's flipping back and forth and it's really throwing me off. So hello again, I'm back. So, having opportunity for our students to be able to participate in these programs, I think is very important. And the more we can connect with Radford University for students who want to go into tech fields that are, higher degree seeking tech fields, I think both directions are very important for us to pursue.
Thank you. Mary, and if you'd like me to repeat the question,
Yes.
let me know.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
So this is one of those things that I really feel like Radford lags behind a lot of the surrounding areas. I think Montgomery County, Giles, Floyd, Pulaski all have a really great VOTech program. I think they've been building on that for years. And I think that we slacked off of that a little bit, but it's absolutely something that I think we need to build up again. We need to really promote for our students. Not everybody is cut out for a four-year college degree. And not only that, but it's gotten extremely expensive. And if you're like me, then you get out of your four-year college degree and then you don't have the skills to do anything. So you end up having to go back to school. I'm a PTA and I could have done that right out of high school. I do have my college degree, which is nice to be able to say, but it doesn't get me very far in life. And I think that what we need to do is really utilize, like Jenny said, the stuff that we have available to us. RU, Virginia Tech, New River Community College, all the wonderful businesses that we have near us. There's an apprentice program through the Virginia Department of Labor. And I think that that's something that we really should be exploring, that the students can do sort of an apprenticeship. So the school wouldn't necessarily have to have anything on campus, but the student would get credits for essentially going to a job a couple of days a week. And I think those are really things that we need to look into to kind of help our kids have other options besides just go to a minimum wage job or go to college.
Thank you. Chris?
Frankly, I agree with the sentiments that we've already heard, as well as taking a little different direction possibly. As I understand the question itself, we're looking at how are we preparing our people, our students, young people, for technology-based jobs and infrastructure. Frankly, that's something that I do agree with the other candidates. We can say we outsource that. We look for our business partners in the area. They're able, willing, and eager to assist us with those areas. It's not something we have to source funding for per se. It's a matter of thinking outside of the traditional box that we're given and being strong community-minded members and advocates. Liaisons is the term that I use whenever it comes to getting our students in front of people, whether it is a technology-based education or whether it is a ag tech or something that, a hands-on, a mechanical apprenticeship, something of that nature. These are all essential things that we need to find, and we need to be responsive, allowing our educators to help us find out which of those students need to go which direction based on their particular aptitudes, and then providing them the resources available through our community as well as through the state funding in order to get them the best way possible. That's really, again, our job as a liaison and as assistants to the young people, the faculty, administration, and staff. Otherwise, we're just shortchanging everyone today and in the future.
Thank you. Justin?
Yeah, so I kind of have two perspectives on it in terms of the school system's ability to develop those programs and, yes, afford those programs. They could certainly do better. I'm kind of more coming at it from an advocate of the two groups of individuals that may have the capacity to go out, go to college, advocate for themselves, parents that help them find the ACE programs and the technology programs that they can go into, kind of help feed them into those systems. So I think there's that group, and those individuals always seem to do a great job of advocating for themselves and finding a path to take. I'm also focused on the individuals that go to our schools that have disabilities, that have or not the level of advocacy from their parents. And so I think if anything shown in this COVID mess is that the capacity for organizations and companies to develop partnerships that are regionally, not just here in our backyard, It's just been amazing to me to see the number of organizations, even at the national level, that have reached out to school children, that have reached out to educators in wanting to develop partnerships with our schools. So I think there's a real opportunity there to, yes, develop some infrastructure that would maybe perhaps provide more opportunity for technology programs and programs that would help them get a job and be ready for the workforce. But I think there's some opportunities there for those that are less advocated, those that have the capacity to advocate for themselves less, whether they have a disability or not, and find a path for them to be a contributor in their communities as well.
Thank you. And Jody.
I think it's the luxury of going last. You get to hear everyone's answers.
Yeah.
I heard the answers go in two different directions when it says, are you satisfied with technology in our schools? So I have a little different perspective, but agree with everyone, I believe. I'm an IT manager right now, and I deal with interns every semester. And I think technology is a very important field, and it pays my bills right now. And we're always looking to innovate and to move things forward and to do things in the most technologically advanced way possible. I think that's very important for Radford, and partnering with our universities here and our community college and our industry. I work in a place where we would love to partner with the schools to help with the expense of the hardware and things like that. But on the other side of that, I'm an career CT teacher. So many years, 4 years ago, we had did a full remodel on our house, and I could not find an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter of any kind. I couldn't find local people to do that. I'd love to ride down Rock Road and see all those new homes and those former Radford students building them, but that's not what I see. Maybe they're involved somehow, but I'd love to see that. Those careers, those guys and gals could hit the road running right after high school. So I think beefing up our CTE program is not only important, it's necessary. And I agree with the nursing and the medical field, and obviously our current situation. We need to focus on that, but I can find a nurse a lot easier than I can find an electrician, I promise. And the electrician can make the price. So I think all of that's important and to be well-rounded, but we have to be able to look at those kids who don't focus or haven't been focused on going to college and who can contribute to the community directly after high school and make good money doing it. So the CTE side of that coin is the one that I would be more focused on.
Thank you. Any comments, additional comments from the candidates? Okay, so we'll go on to our next question. And Mary, you'll get to ask this question, answer this question first. And this is a long question. I'm going to warn you guys ahead of time. So here we go. Arts and music have been slowly leaving our schools. What is your current standing on how RCPS is handling the arts? Do you feel like RCPS is currently fulfilling a strong curriculum in the arts? If not, what would you propose and how would you accomplish it?
That's a really good question. And honestly, one that I don't know a whole lot about. I mean, my kids take art, they take music. They seem to enjoy it, but there is not, I think, as much as there used to be, certainly. You know, they used to bring home a lot of projects, and I don't see that a lot. So I'm not entirely sure if they're just doing less projects. So as far as the high school, I think they're doing a great job. My oldest is in band and has been since 7th grade. Initially, I didn't think it was going to be such a great thing for him to have to do marching band, but it's really turned out fantastically. I think we have a very strong band program at the high school, and I love that music is such a part of his life now. So I'm not really sure. I think a lot of the stuff that I would like to see is a more project-based learning system in the lower grades, which would help entail things like art and music also, in addition to supplementing what they already are getting just from going to their specials and doing that separately. But past that, I'm honestly not entirely sure. I think, like I said, I think we have a great choral program. I think we have a great band program at the high school. I think where we need to focus a little bit more is in elementary schools.
Thank you. Chris?
You know, this is an area that is very near and dear to my heart, as both of my daughters are very involved with the arts and music programs. My wife and I both were marching Bobcats, as well as you know, our student life there. So to me, Radford has almost become a pay-for-play kind of scenario when it comes to arts and music. Some of my oldest daughter's friends are in drama as well as other sources, and it can be very expensive, which makes it exclusive, and that's not appropriate. So many of the programs are trying to do different fundraisers to get those additional monies in to help out. There are scenarios where they expand this beyond, but again, I think it's something that it shouldn't have to be self-funding in order to allow this. There should be more consideration and more opportunity for the arts and music, because frankly, that is one of the many pleasures in life. We all feel the emotion in our heart and soul when a favorite song comes on, or we hear a favorite play or something of that nature. Frankly, it is something we should be looking at as a priority, because this also leads to other things such as life experience, positive memories, things you finally look at about your scholastic career. So I do think it's something that needs to be continually reevaluated and looked at from the ground up, and maintained that way and reevaluated that way. Yes, we do have a strong program, but it can be much better, and it can include more people and more students who want to participate if we do it properly.
Justin? Hello, Justin, you are muted.
All right, there you go. So start the clock over. Both my daughters have played music through the school systems. Our youngest daughter actually was just upstairs playing violin a little while ago with her Zoom tutorial teachers out of McCarty Elementary School. So Ode to Joy or something, I think she was playing. So our older daughter played piano, took it here locally and through a program on West End or Central Radford. And then because she had that capacity, was asked, I think when she played band, just to take an instrument and play it, since you can read music. So it has a huge value to the kids to be able to learn and be able to play. When I think of our kids that have been able to play in the Moss Arts Center, when they've won regional and state band competitions, when you see them at the football game playing and pouring down rain, I mean, there's a huge dedication to our kids. And Mr. Frankenberger and everybody just does an amazing job instilling interest in music. I guess I would kind of go back to Mary, and Mary mentioning the arts from that standpoint. I guess I probably don't see it in the elementary school level as much. Project-based stuff would actually be interesting to see in the elementary school. But I see a lot of successes that our students are doing. But I would agree with Mr. Caffey that having an access and equitable opportunities for more kids in the program without having to do fundraising would be great if we had some dollars that we could direct more so to those programs to help students out. Because a lot of those kids, if they're in that situation, probably aren't as adept to fundraising as some of the other kids that have more means to do it and also pay on their own. So I think there's certainly some room to grow and expand those programs and advocate for them more.
Thank you. Jody?
Yeah, I share the same thoughts that Chris and Justin do. I think the question was, are you satisfied with how RCPS is handling the arts? And I don't think we should ever be satisfied. I think they do a pretty good job, but I don't think we should ever be satisfied with anything. My daughter's been in chorus. My wife is the treasurer of the choral patrons. I've traveled all over the state watching her try out and, for state chorus and all their everything they've done. So I'm an advocate for it. but it has to start young. So any program that you look at in public schools that is successful, if you look at a school and they're really good at something, they start young. When you look at a school that has a really good football program, not just a team one year, but a program in general, they win year after year, it's because they're doing it in the rec leagues earlier. The arts are no different. So if we want to expand and be more successful than we are, then we have to start young and give the kids, instill a love for that early. I do think we should do that. I do think we should do it not only in the arts, but everything. As a middle school principal, we offered our exploratories at the high school level for high school credits. So the students could start in 6th and 7th grade, or 7th grade specifically for high school credit classes in the arts. Band of course were 2 of those. Some of the best plays I've ever seen in my life in theater were done by those kids when they were juniors and seniors, because they had years of acting and singing behind them. So kind of along the same lines, no, I'm not satisfied. I do think we could use improvement, but I also think we do a pretty good job at it right now. It just depends. It depends on where our focus comes in the future. As far as funding, I've never seen anyone raise money like a band. So I don't think fundraising should be the only thing, but man, they can raise it fast. Usually because there's so many of them. But again, it's a prioritizing, I guess, strategy by the board where your focus will be with your budget, whether you need to fundraise or not. So I'm being told my time's up. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, and Jenny.
Yes, of course, there's always room for improvement when it comes to arts and music, all of that wonderful, enriching stuff. And we've got a wonderful, art teacher that has to split her time between McHarg and Belle Heath. We have a wonderful music teacher who splits her time between McHarg and Belle Heath. I would love for there to be funding in the budget to be able to have a full-time art and music teacher at each school. I think the more time our students can have with those teachers, the more that those teachers can work with classroom teachers to be able to do some of this project-based learning. We know that in the real world, if you're a biologist, you're not just biology. There's art in communicating what it is that you're doing. If you're doing a presentation as a historian, if you need to get up and speak in front of public, you need to have a theater understanding of your voice and how you present yourself. So I feel that music and art are always, music, art, theater, all of those are always going to be integral into building a well-rounded student. So I would love for there to be some funding to be able to support those teachers in what they're doing at our lower elementary schools. I think project-based learning is the way of the future, and we need to do that more, like others have said, starting younger and younger. And I think that our teachers are working towards that. I've seen lots and lots at Belle Heath with all of their teachers doing their project lead the way things. And so I think we're moving in that direction. I love what Mr. Worley is doing up at the intermediate school and the high school to have opportunities for theater for our students. And my son is a theater kid, and he's soon to be on the marching band. So he's really excited to have those opportunities. My daughter has participated in the Virginia Tech Strings Project. So I think that we are doing fine bringing in opportunities for our students, but that we can always grow and improve to help all students be able to experience those kinds of opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. Any additional comments from the candidates? Okay, so our next question, and Chris, you will be able to answer this question first. And this question reads, how should our schools provide security for students, faculty, and staff? How do we best balance prevention, such as a focus on mental health and defense, possibly including arming teachers? What should the school board's role be in making these decisions?
I think at this point in time, the school board has already taken great strides as far as educating themselves by going through some of the assessment drills and being involved with the schools. Especially with Mr. Beasley, the security officer, things of that nature, Radford City Police Department, Sheriff Armentrout and his group have really helped out a lot as far as being aware of opportunities there. I was attending the meeting when we had the assessment. They reviewed the drills that they had gone from. They're very intensive. I really feel like we need to expand that not only to selective members of faculty, staff, and administration, but to all members of faculty, staff, and administration. There need to be more proactive opportunities. I do firmly believe that our young people are the most precious thing that we have in Radford City Schools, and we have to protect them completely, wholeheartedly, without question and without fail. So with that, I think a more direct approach to that is the best answer. I do agree that certain individuals, every school should have people who are properly trained and able to respond directly to circumstances. I'd love to say we have enough law enforcement officers to put them in every school, but we don't always. I know some schools in the northern part of the state are actually using retired military and law enforcement agents for that. That's something that, frankly, I would like to see us at least consider in Radford City as additional security officers that are willing to even volunteer their time. It doesn't cost anything. It just gives us that accessibility for additional security. And it allows our young people to meet these people as well and show respect to the service that they provided to our community and continue to want to do so. That would be my opinion.
Thank you. Justin? Justin, you need to unmute, please.
So I think the school system does, I think listening to the school board meeting the other night where they went through some of the assessments that they've done, the trainings that they've been through, I think if I understood right, Mr. Goodman would probably be going through some additional trainings with staff and offering that opportunity up for other staff and certainly probably administrators at the school. When I drop my girls off at school, whether I'm coming in the back way to the high school or off of the main road there that runs up by the middle school where the police officer sits in the morning and watches over traffic. I mean, I think we do a remarkable job considering everything else that they have to manage in this city, our police departments manage in the city. I think there perhaps is some room to have some discussions. I think they're doing it well now, but maybe just make sure that we stay active and involved with it as we build these modular units over by the elementary school. I think that's going to create a different dynamic that maybe we haven't seen, but I know that they're addressing. I've sat in those meetings and I know, or sat and listened to those meetings, so I know that they're addressing those concerns. But I think there's always room for improvement. I think there's opportunities to teach. My wife is a guidance counselor at Floyd High School, and I think there are some opportunities to train teachers to know how to deal with a situation if a firearm or some sort is found in the building or they're in a situation where they need to respond. I don't necessarily think it's okay at this point to have teachers armed in the school, but I think certainly understanding how to deal with that situation if they come across one certainly should be something they could be trained on.
Thank you. Jody?
Yeah, I think school safety is always the #1 priority. And if you look at the board's goals, school safety is the very first one. And that should always stay there. I do think there's some basic things that we can do. As at the middle and high school level, my focus was visibility. Whether we like it or not, our teachers are front line for our kids. When we send our kids to school, we expect them to be safe and taken care of. So having teachers in the hallways, visibility is huge. Kids are outside, visibility there as well. Visibility of the resource officer. Training is obviously a big thing. The active shooter training that's been going on in Radford, as Justin alluded to, has been well received, and everyone that I've heard who took it, my wife being one of them, loved it. I think they're going to, I don't know if they're going to require everyone, but definitely try to get everyone that training. I think that's great. I've been through similar trainings. Mock drills, again, your door's locked. There are a lot of things that need to be done. One of the neatest things that I've ever been involved in is Nelson County. My SRO had a drug dog like all day, every day, walk the halls with him. Never seen that before. We had very few drug problems because of that, which obviously lead to the safety issues. So I think there are a lot of things we do. I'm not ever satisfied with what we do. Arming teachers is a deep, deep subject. I also worked in a school division in Amherst where a teacher went and was certified as a police officer so they could carry a gun to school. They did not let this teacher carry it to school, but he worked after school events, basketball, football games, things like that, dressed as a part-time officer. So he ended up being part of the police force, and he was a teacher with a gun, if you look at it. So it's not a new thing. That was years ago. Deep subject. I think that takes a lot of looking at your community and your culture and things like that. But I do think there's some simple things that we can and do, and obviously we can improve.
Thank you so much, Jody. Jenny?
Thank you. So absolutely, safety is number one. We have the opportunity for every teacher to have the run, hide, fight training. They've all been offered the opportunity, and they'll be offered the opportunity again. And I hope that many, many teachers choose to take that training because it does give them the skills to be able to think when the unthinkable might happen. So that they're going ahead and getting in the mind space of what would I do if. And so it's very important, and I'm so glad that we have that opportunity for our teachers. I trust in our Radford City Police Department, who've been keeping our students safe, who have officers who spend their time at our schools, who've built relationships with our students. I was on campus one day at McCarg when I was delivering backpack bags, and a teacher saw something that just didn't feel right. And the officer that had been helping deliver with me stopped what he did. The whole school jumped into action, and the situation was managed before any person's foot hit Radford City property. So I trust in our Radford City Police Department to keep us safe. I trust in our teachers and our staff to recognize if something doesn't feel right, if something doesn't look right. And along with that, mental health was brought up. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, so mental health is where my heart is, and I feel that every teacher needs to have some trauma training across the board from preschool to 12th grade to be able to educate our teachers so that they are prepared to be able to identify and assess some basic signs that students are having mental health distress so that they can receive services sooner. Early intervention is key. If you wait until a student is in 11th or 12th grade, then it's really, really hard to reach them if they're struggling. And we know that with so many of our students have difficult home lives, have poverty. Also,
yes. Yeah, your time is up, but thank you. And Mary.
Yes, so I believe that safety should be priority number one. You can't do anything if the students don't feel safe, if the teachers don't feel safe. And I think we've made some great strides working towards that with having the doors locked, with having to show your ID, with teachers or the front office staff having to walk you back if you want to go to your kid's class. The training that we've done has been fantastic. I certainly agree that we need to work on some training as far as identifying those who might have some sort of mental health issue. I think open communication is important, letting those students know that there are people they can talk to. And I agree with the visibility. I think the more people you have out there watching, the less likely there is to be trouble.
Any other comments on this question?
Can
yes,
I don't have a timer screen, so I can't see when I'm running out of time. But I just wanted to say am I allowed to follow up with what I'm saying? Okay. So trauma training for all teachers and any staff that want to participate, I think is imperative. And I think not only for the teachers to be able to support our students, but for the teachers to have their own support, because they're having to deal with not only teaching students who are coming from a variety of backgrounds, but the stress that's put on them to help mitigate those issues is huge. So trauma training for the teachers and to assist the teachers. Thank you.
Any others? Okay, well, this is going to be the last question of the night. And so I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And so Jody, you'll be able to answer this question first. And so our final question reads, what initiatives and/or policies would you like to see Radford City Schools put in place to recognize and honor the diversity of our students and families? How important do you think diversity of teachers is in providing students with a well-rounded education?
Yeah, so I think diversity is very important, obviously, for teachers and students. I currently work in a position where I work with people all over the world on a daily basis. I have managers who I talk with and work with and collaborate with on every continent. So I see the importance of that, language barriers, things like that. As far as programs in place, I can't say that I've thought about anything specific. I know something that I think we need to look at is to make sure our teachers, we have a diverse staff from the top down, from the superintendent down. I think that's very important so kids can relate. I do think it's a priority in our school division. I do think our school division's done a pretty good job with that. Things come up. It happens. Obviously, we have a recent challenge that happened not long ago. But you have a plan in place, and a plan is just a plan is better than no plan. So I hope we have a plan for diversity. I know our hiring strategies, I would think, focus on that. I do think it's important, and I value it.
Thank you. Chris?
I will say that I will echo some of the sentiments that Jody has already shared. As a hiring manager for my existing company, and I have been, frankly, for over 20 years in the banking industry, diversity is essential. I don't see it any different with Radford City Schools. As Jody mentioned, our faculty, staff, students, everyone needs to be able to relate to an individual on some level. And if you don't have a diverse staff and you don't have a diverse understanding, whether it's race, religion, economic status, anything of that nature, frankly, you're disassociating yourself from your target audience and those that are most important to us, our young people. So I do think it is essential. I am not privy to the particular policy of RCPS this time, but I would certainly hope, as Jody mentioned, that there is an existing policy there where we're considering all candidates of all backgrounds and frankly not precluding anyone based on any statutes that would be there. But again, also it's a matter that everyone needs to relate and feel comfortable in your environment, and that's essential. It should be a major priority when we're looking at hiring conditions.
Thank you. Mary?
Yes, so part of the goals actually listed right now on the school board sites are that they want to make efforts to recruit and hire minorities, to have community forums in relevant neighborhoods. I think those things are super important, working towards recognizing families, maybe not honoring them, but recognizing individuals and families that may come from a different culture or various areas. And I think that is a start to help increase our diversity. I think it's super important for the kids to have somebody that they can identify with, whether it's a teacher or cafeteria worker or the superintendent or a school board member. And to that end, I think diversity in general is super important for the school system.
Thank you. Justin.
I'm not muted. Okay, good. I think it's, so some of my background and experience in terms of initiatives that maybe could go on, my background and experience coming right out of college was working for a program housed at Virginia Tech called Upward Bound and Talent Search. It was for first generation and or low income students. And right off the bat, having grown up in Reiner and then going to college and then my first job, I traveled from Pocahontas, West Virginia, Pocahontas area, Graham, Virginia, all the way to Martinsville, worked with students at Bassett. So I got to see the impact that being in a diverse climate can really help these students achieve things they never thought they could before and develop friendships. Then we pulled all those students and we would house them at Virginia Tech for 6 weeks. And you take students from Graham and Pocahontas and put them with kids from Martinsville, Magna Vista, and Bassett, you really get a unique atmosphere of learning a lot about each other's similarities just as much as you would see their differences. So from a standpoint of maybe trying to recognize those students' achievements in the school systems, one of the initiatives I think would be neat to see, and I've seen it at other schools, is the CTE signing day. You know, recognizing these students, if we're talking about building programs that develop students and get them ready for the workforce, I put them right out in front of everybody else that's signing to go play football at Emory and Henry or Hampton, Sydney, or JMU, and show that these kids have worked their tails off for 4 years and they've got a job right out of school and are going to excel. So I think there are some ways that we can highlight those students and at the same time, you know, develop some diversity, not just among the students, but certainly among the teachers so that they can relate for sure.
Thank you. And Jenny.
Yes, I absolutely think that our staff should represent our population of students. I think it's important. And I know that our casting a wide net to try to get teachers in who represent a wide variety of diversity, not just black, white, but all sorts of diversity. I know they're doing their part to try to make that happen. Why aren't these teachers applying here, I think is the real question. We obviously have a diverse city, and we have a teaching institution in Radford University in our backyard. So are the teacher students that are coming into Radford University diverse in all the definitions of the word? When I've done a little research, it doesn't look like they have a whole lot of diversity coming into their student body. So is there something that can be done on a city level, on a university level, to help encourage more folks from varied backgrounds to come to Radford? A lot of our student teachers are from Radford University, and most of them are white females. So I think we have some work to do to figure out what the systemic reasons are that we're not getting those teachers applying. And if they are applying and we just don't know that they're applying, is there a reason why they're not being hired? And so I think we definitely need to look into that. I think losing Coach Prelude at Bell Heath was just devastating for all of our students. He's a phenomenal human being. But we shouldn't only have to look towards one black male to represent all the goodness that he brought to Bell Heath. I hope that we can have many teachers come in, many staff come in who can represent our student body and be role models for everyone. So I think that's what we need to look into.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all. You all did just a phenomenal job with some really tough questions this evening. And so now we're going to move into just the final, you all's closing statements. You all will each have 2 minutes to do that. And we started off our opening statements in alphabetical order. So we're going to start our closing statements in backwards alphabetical order. Is that what you call it? So we will start the closing statements off with Mary.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Karen. I appreciate you and the NAACP and the League of Women Voters for putting us all together. Things were kind of hectic there, and we weren't sure if this was going to happen. So I appreciate all the hard work that you've done to get this together. I, hope that we gave the community some insight. I don't always claim to have the right answers or any at all, but I am somebody who works really hard. I'm very interested in open communication with everybody. I'm willing to put in the work to get things done, and I just look forward to the next couple years.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jenny?
Again, I'll say thank you to the NAACP and the League of Women Voters for hosting us in this strange version of a forum, but it's worked out pretty well, I think. For folks who don't know me personally, I am a volunteer, and I am a community organizer, and I'm a fundraiser. So I'm somebody who has boots on the ground, doing my part to help meet the needs of our community. There was a need with Bobcat backpacks 4 years ago for some community support to help feed our children on the weekends who were in need. So we jumped in and we did it. We did our research, we figured out what we could do, and we did it. And we're still doing it. And being involved on a policy level with our school board to help make sure that there's fair and equitable policies for our children, so that our teachers are supported, so that they're paid what their value is. I hope to be a part of the board, and I hope to have everyone's vote. Thank you all so much for having me.
Thank you. Jody?
Yeah, same sentiment. Thank you guys for having us. Thanks to everyone for putting the time in to listen to us. I think if I look at the people running in a broad sense, I think we're all running for the right reasons. I think there are differences, and we all have ideas. And I think everyone would do a good job on the board, to be honest. But I do think some of us bring unique things to the table. You don't just have an idea in a school division and implement it and you're done with it and move to the next one. We have a school division of roughly 1,600 kids, and you have to know how to navigate that. And I feel like I bring that to the table with my experience in education. I have my doctorate in education. Great leaders ask a lot of questions. I think you have to have your ear to the ground in our community to know the heartbeat of the schools. I'm involved with the schools on a daily basis. I've chased my kids around Radford for the last 4 years to every event. I have a full-time job and coach 3 sports in our city. So I'm involved in a lot of things. So I think all of us bring those things to the table. But I think having an understanding of our culture, having an understanding of our schools, talking to our teachers, and knowing how to navigate the ideas that people bring forth. I have ideas. All of us on the panel here have ideas, but the good ideas come from the classroom, to be honest, and you have to be willing and open to listen to those and then know how to implement them. So I feel like I can do that, and I hope I can win the vote of everyone listening.
Thank you. Justin?
Yes, well, thank you, Karen, for putting things like this on, and certainly navigating a way for us all to kind of figure out how to get here in one place. And thank you to the League of Women Voters and the NAACP. I go back to kind of my initial statement. Everything that I've kind of grown up in this area is advocating for kids and programs that necessarily don't have the loudest voice behind them. So whether that was Upward Bound and Talent Search, whether that's my participation on the board or Beams and Rice, or volunteering whenever I can to help folks in the community out, I'm always looking for ways to kind of make an impact in an area that maybe doesn't get or doesn't have the loudest voice behind them. So whether those are teachers who are looking for a pay raise, a building that needs to be renovated, or new buildings built, or community members that want to get involved and support the programs, I'm all for trying to find a way to make that happen. And then I go back to kind of the other aspect of like, how do you define what school is? And for school, that can mean a lot for any other child. It could mean running into Mr. Green in the hallway and seeing him every day when you come into McCarty Elementary. Or it can mean, being able to play music after school and you go day to day knowing that you have that opportunity to do that or interact with someone. So I think being a person on the board, a member on the board, I'll bring and pull those experiences that I have in different areas to make sound decisions and listen to people's opinions as they come to us with their ideas of how we as board members can maybe move the community forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Chris.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, as everyone else has mentioned, to the League of Women Voters, NAACP, and thank you to everyone who has, as Jody mentioned, taken the time to join us tonight and ask thoughtful questions and get our responses. I also agree that all the candidates have their own opportunities, their own assets they bring to the board. We all obviously have the same desire to help those that most desperately need it, and that's why we're here. Personally, I'll just say that after over 20 years of managing a bank and having multi-million-dollar budgets that I have to allocate, design, and implement as the team, that's what I bring to the opportunity as the board, is the ability to look at those numbers and look at the budgets to help bring every opportunity, every nickel out that we can, and then to reach out to the business partners in the community that I've made between business management, also my membership with the Lions Club, my membership with the church, my membership with the Masonic Lodge, things like that over the years, those groups that I've given back to our community, and we've developed those strong ties and desire to help out, and those ties don't break. Frankly, it's as Jody mentioned, nobody does a fundraiser like a band. Well, I've been a band kid, so is my wife, and both, my oldest daughter is a band child as well, so we know how to find the money and how to get it to the right places. It's just the opportunity that we bring balance to the community and to the insight. The good Lord blessed me with 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's because I listen twice as much as I talk normally. I know tonight's been the exception. So if given the opportunity, that is what I bring to Radford City, is 2 ears that are always open, a heart that's willing to hear you, and then the courage through my teamwork and management skills to implement that, to be that liaison that I can to help get everything we can for our fantastic Bobcats. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I'm just going to ask everybody while we're at home to please give these candidates just a great big hand clap. You all just did a fantastic job. There were a lot of tough questions. They were thoughtful questions. You all gave some really thoughtful answers, and so I appreciate all of that. And so to all of you who have logged in or called in, we appreciate your time in asking those tough questions. And just a quick reminder that you all can download the voter guide that each of the candidates have completed. You can download that at each of our websites for the League of Women Voters or the NAACP. And just to remember, the last day to request an absentee ballot will be April the 28th. We will be posting this form on Facebook just a little bit later this evening. So if you want to share it, please do. Let the whole community hear from these candidates. And there were really a lot of questions this evening, some really great questions. And as I mentioned earlier, we will be sharing those questions with the candidates. So if we didn't get to yours, don't worry. They will get those and hopefully take that opportunity to answer those as well. So thank you all again. Have a wonderful night, and we will see you all next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks.
Again, everybody have a blessed night.